Well, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Hope everyone's having a lovely day and that you've had a marvelous evening as well. We are going to go over some incredible information today, you guys. Our favorite Anon has put the clowns in America on blast, and new information has surfaced to kind of guide us through the process by which President Donald Trump and the people around him were thrust into this never-ending witch hunt that technically is still ongoing to this day because the Democrats consistently want to bring up new investigations. However, after today, these investigations are no longer going to be necessary. Declassified information has been released, which shows the very beginning of Crossfire Hurricane. We also understand now the connections between the clowns in America and the FBI and how they were used to try to entrap our president and the people in his orbit. And finally, Senator Ratcliffe has been firmly appointed as the Director of National Intelligence. With Ratcliffe's record, we know that he is dedicated to truth, integrity, and transparency. So he is going to be building upon the changes that acting DNI Grinnell has begun to put in place. So we're going to weave all of these together with some brand new posts that just came out today. So please do sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. During a worldwide pandemic, it's a good idea to stock up your house with essential supplies. If the lights go out, it's really important to have contingency plans in place. A good start would be a flashlight, and not just any flashlight, but the Fighter Flare flashlight. The 6-in-1 Fighter Flare comes with a 3,000 milliamp hour solar-powered recharging battery, 800 lumen LED, high and low beam lights, emergency strobe light, compass, wire and rope cutter, emergency glass breaking hammer, and a high-powered military magnet. Users have reported this flashlight to be an all-in-one lifesaver and wouldn't go anywhere without it. It's lightweight but very durable, compact but great for handling all emergencies. The Fighter Flare flashlight is the perfect addition to your household and can be very reliable in times of need. Supplies are limited, and this is your very last chance to get 20% off on the new 2020 model before they sell out. Take advantage now and give you and your family the gift of night protection. Please visit www.fighterflare.com. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all today, and most importantly, I believe, is the appointment of Senator John Ratcliffe. He has been confirmed in the Senate. I don't know how soon it's going to be before he actually takes the position over, but I remember when Dan Coates was announced to be leaving, and then acting DNI Director Rick Grinnell was announced, there was a bit of a layover. So I would expect that Grinnell is maybe going to be there for another week, another 10 days, but then DNI Ratcliffe will be able to take over the position. Now, it was approved on party lines, essentially, 49 to 44 vote, and this comes in the middle of a virtual firestorm. We know the intelligence community is under major scrutiny right now. We had everyone from the NSC to the FBI, from the clowns in America, across the board, people working within our own government to subvert the incoming presidency of Donald Trump. And from watching the coverage in the mainstream media and the way that people in Washington, D.C. talk about President Trump, you'd think it was because they just didn't like him, although they will also say that they are trying to save our country. I think that everyone here watching this show knows that the reason they could not handle Donald Trump becoming president is because he himself is committed to truth and justice and to draining the swamp, as he loves to say. Now, we have an incredible opportunity here with the appointment and confirmation of DNI Ratcliffe, because the Office of the Director of National Intelligence oversees all 17 of our intelligence agencies. We know that Rick Grinnell just recently completely restructured the intelligence agencies. He pared down the NSC. He took out a lot of people who were holdovers from the last presidential administration. With the history we've had in the intelligence community, and specifically the NSC, recently directing various forms of information and private data about people like General Flynn, President Trump, and his children, it is extremely important for the DNI to walk in there and really clean things up. Because just today, we've gotten several posts which allude to the structure of things in the intelligence community and how it relates to the witch hunt that has been targeting President Trump and anybody who supports his agenda. Now, looking to get a better look at exactly who was targeted and perhaps to discover why, Senators Johnson and Grassley have delivered this letter to acting DNI Rick Grinnell, and they wrote it on May 19th. Now, what they're asking for is to reiterate and request the declassification of additional information related to the unmasking of Americans around the time of the 2016 election. Now, they also want to expand the scope of their request to include information as early as January 2016. It continues, based on our investigation and recent press reports, we are increasingly concerned that the surveillance of U.S. persons affiliated with the Trump campaign began earlier than the opening of the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane investigation in late July 2016. And obviously, from the recent reports that have come out and from the information that's been recently declassified, we can bet that there certainly was investigation and spying taking place well before this. If you just look at that release that came out the other day with regard to the individual from the Treasury Department, that was another way that they were using to gain information about the people in President Trump's inner circle and the people on his campaign. Now, whether it's acting DNI Grinnell or incoming DNI Ratcliffe, gaining that information should give us some really good clues into who, what, where, when, why, and how this investigation began. Now, one thing that's come out in the last 24 hours, and we can thank Judicial Watch for this, is the initial electronic communication which was used to officially launch Crossfire Hurricane, and it all begins with Peter Strzok. Now, the official story is that in July of 2016, Peter Strzok opened up this counterintelligence investigation into President Trump's campaign. Why? Because apparently George Papadopoulos had met with Alexander Downer in a London restaurant and told him that the Russians had approached him about getting access to Hillary Clinton's private server because apparently the Russians had hacked it. Now, this initial electronic communication is a communication from Peter Strzok, which talks about that meeting in and of itself. Now, it doesn't specifically name Alexander Downer, but it does name George Papadopoulos as the person on President Trump's campaign team who received communication from the Russians. It does list an Office of the Deputy Chief of Mission, but it gives no country, and it doesn't say where this mission is located. Since it was apparently Alexander Downer that brought this information, I would think it's likely that Alexander Downer went to the American embassy there in Australia, Five Eyes, and then this information was passed on, and Peter Strzok opened up the investigation. Now, this is great that we've got this, but the thing about it is, knowing that spying was happening well before this July 2016 time span, we know that somebody else must have been involved as well. And given the fact that Senators Johnson and Grassley have now extended their request on declassification and information related to the spying on President Trump and his campaign, you can bet that they also know that the spying was going on far earlier than July of 2016. Let's go ahead and take a look at something. Now, in post 4299, our favorite Anon includes an older post that is related to the Five Eyes spying techniques. It says, normally, intelligence passed on from a member of the Five Eyes Alliance, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, and the US, to another member comes through an official channel for intelligence sharing. However, Nunes, upon reviewing the document that formally launched the FBI's investigation, said there was no intelligence shared through that official channel, meaning that the intelligence was shared through unofficial means. Now, it says here also important to note for future events, masking versus unmasking. These are the difference in the types of intelligence that can be shared or gleaned. Incidentally intercepted versus target. So whether or not it was an American citizen who was incidentally captured while an intelligence agency was listening to a foreign national, or if it is a direct target. 702 collection, minimization procedures versus the Clowns in America versus Five Eyes. So 702 is the FISA process. That would be FBI. Clowns in America can listen outside the United States, and Five Eyes can listen in on Americans anywhere else. How does the Clowns in America collect intelligence? And then we link to an executive order. And this executive order is from 1981, and it's entitled Executive Order 12333, United States Intelligence Activities. And it outlines the types of intelligence gathering that can be done by the various agencies within the United States government. Now, it's important to note that included in the guidelines for how these various departments of the United States government should actually be involved in gathering information, the Department of Treasury is specifically listed as overtly collecting foreign financial and monetary information, and then participating with the Department of State in that foreign information, producing and disseminate foreign intelligence related to United States economic policy, and conducting through the United States Secret Service activities to determine the existence and capability of surveillance being used against the President of the United States. Nowhere in there does it say that the Department of the Treasury should be spying on individuals such as General Flynn and President Trump's children were spied upon. Now, it also notes for the clowns in America that they shall not engage in electronic surveillance within the United States except for the purpose of training, testing, or conducting countermeasures to hostile electronic surveillance. It also lays out the definition of counterintelligence. This has always been labeled a counterintelligence investigation against President Trump and his campaign, but here it's defined as means information gathered and activity conducted to protect against espionage, other intelligence activities, sabotage, or assassination conducted on or behalf of foreign powers, organizations, or persons, or internal terror activities, but not including personal, physical, document, or communications security programs. Now, stated at the end, the order was intended to control and provide direction and guidance to the intelligence community. Specifically, the actions of the intelligence community, the way by which the investigation into President Trump and the people around him was perpetrated, is wholly out of line with these guidelines set forth within this executive order. Now continuing, clowns in America, not governed by FISA, intelligence operations conducted outside of the United States. By their mandate, by their directive, they are not allowed to spy within the U.S. The FBI is under FISA. Their foreign intelligence mission is principally domestic. Target location, U.S. or abroad, traveling, and there's rules. Foreign intelligence and collection of U.S. persons, official versus unofficial. Everything that was done was unofficial. That's why there was no official channels that were being used to pass this information back and forth. They were not allowed to spy on American citizens. However, it happened. And then we're asked, what central ABC agency played quarterback? Now, perhaps answering that question for us is a clip that my buddy Methods was able to grab. This is an interview with Rudy Giuliani on Fox back in August of 2018, and I want you to listen to the language he uses here.
Now, the reality is, I'm going to tell you, and we don't have the time to go into it, we can do it later. I'm going to tell you who orchestrated with the quarterback for all this. It isn't just Strzok. He's a bit of a puppet. Then there's Mueller. He's a puppet. People working for him are... Some of them are really...
I have a funny feel you're about to drop a bomb on me. Go ahead.
The guy running it is Brennan, and he should be in front of a grand jury.
Now, our favorite Anon asked us who played quarterback, what central ABC agency. Rudy Giuliani states that John Brennan played quarterback. I'd say that that is the answer to our question right there. Now, if he played quarterback, who's the guy who caught the ball? Well, we know that it apparently all started with Peter Strzok, but the information must have come from somewhere. I'm saying it came from John Brennan and his boys and girls at the Clowns in America. Now, this is something we've talked about before, but just in case people don't remember, although Peter Strzok and Joe Pkwy were employed by the FBI, they also were employed by the Clowns in America as well. And this has been overlooked by a good number of people in the mainstream media. It's not exactly reported upon, but it is a very important connection. With the recently declassified handwritten notes that came out from the FBI, with the fact that Peter Strzok was one of those individuals, and Joe Pkwy was the other one who actually went and interviewed General Flynn, it looks like they wanted to keep that ball close to their chest. They wanted to keep it all in the family. John Brennan brings in the info, passes it off to Peter Strzok and Joe Pkwy. They begin the investigation, and then together with the help of Jim Comey and Andrew McCabe and all of the other Spygate coup plotters, they went about the process of bringing down General Flynn, and then right after they were hoping to bring down President Donald Trump. However, it did not work. Don't forget that back in August of 2016, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were texting each other about that insurance policy that they discussed with Andrew McCabe, and then the very next day, it's believed that they slipped an agent into the presidential briefing to spy on General Flynn, and that most likely was Joe Pkwy. Now, Peter Strzok, working for both the Clowns in America and the FBI, that seems pretty unusual to me. I don't know how often that actually takes place, but when you put it together with Peter Strzok's strange upbringing and the country of Iran, his father's relationship to the clowns in America as well. It seems like Peter Strzok was raised as a company man, if you will, much in the same way that I do believe Barry was raised as a company man as well. We also know that John Brennan was in Europe at the same time that Peter Strzok was, and the other members of the secret society in England. And we know that Page and Strzok referred to another Brennan operative, he who shall not be named, another agent of John Brennan, someone with the initials EC, who brought up the entire impeachment sham resulting from that Ukrainian phone call. Now, we also received an article from the Federalist laying out how the intelligence community apparatus was designed to specifically go after President Trump. And then after that, we received this Newsweek article from the 22nd of September, 1986, and it's entitled Reporters and the Clowns in America. It begins by asking the question, exactly what are the relations between American reporters and the clowns in America? It goes on to compare that relationship to something similar but not nearly as draconian as the relationship the KGB in the USSR had with mainstream media reporters. But it kind of whitewashes it in the way that it states the relationship as necessary because reporters can get into places that the Clowns in America agents simply can't. It does identify the relationship as being symbiotic and takes some quotes from people who were mainstream media journalists who compare the idea of helping Clowns in America agents as a sort of patriotic duty. Now, this is something we've heard before. Agents will approach people, say it's your duty to help your country, and this is what we need you to do. But it's done things like asking them to carry out drops like regular case officers would, traded information and access, sometimes paying people for that information. However, William Colby, former director of the Clowns in America, said that there was an unspoken rule that they wouldn't say anything about what they should write to their home editors. I would say that based upon what we're seeing in today's world, that relationship has drastically changed. Now, apparently, while George Bush was head of the Clowns in America, he did issue a regulation barring any direct ties between the agency and American news organizations. And then, when Adam Stansfield Turner replaced Bush in 1977, he distributed a one-page memo restating that position and adding one caveat, empowering the director to make exceptions in what he considered life-or-death situations. So, considering the way that people have been acting about President Trump, I think it's safe to assume that the Clowns in America who are willing to try to overthrow the U.S. government, they could probably just state that it's a life-or-death situation. Therefore, it's necessary for us to put out all of this information about President Trump and to control the discourse taking place in America and tell people exactly what to think and feel. Now, with that post, we're asked to expand our thinking, and then in the very next post, it says, logical thinking, Clowns in America coming back into the news soon. And we are taken to a link at the Senate Intelligence Committee website for a hearing which specifically was dealing with the Clowns in America, their relationship with the mainstream media, as well as their relationship with the clergy. Now, this Senate Select Committee on Intelligence briefing was prepared back in 1996, entitled Clowns in America's Use of Journalists and Clergy in Intelligence Operation. And it is a lengthy document, quite long. It goes through a lot of information, and it talks about this subject right here. I mean, there's no two ways about it. It intentionally talks about the logistics and the morality of using the Clowns in America and the implications of what it might mean for America and American society. So I highly suggest you guys take a look through this document. It's a lot of information to pour through, but I do believe somebody's going to find something very interesting. It appears to me that the fundamental shift that's taken place in America can be traced back to the direct influence of the Clowns in America in a variety of power structures, whether it is the church, whether it is the media, whether it is state and local government. How do you differentiate between a Clowns in America agent who's acting out in the field and a Clowns in America agent who is employed by a news agency or who has run for Senate and won a Democratic position in a state like, say, California? The answer to that is that you cannot differentiate between them because once you're an agent, you're always an agent. And here, right now in this country, we basically have a coup d'etat that has taken place, and it is directly at the hands of the Clowns in America. John Brennan played the quarterback. He teed up this information that was illegally gathered, and then he gave it to the FBI, which then used it to start the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. As we are receiving this new information from our favorite Anon, highlighting specifically the role of the clowns in America in everything that we've just went through over the last 4 years, I think it's a really good chance that we certainly are going to be seeing them in the news very soon, and it's something we need to keep our eyes open for, because the clowns played the largest role of any of our 17 intelligence agencies, and as President Trump once said, he's going to build them a new house, but without columns. President Trump is looking to tear down the fifth column. The fifth column is a smaller group inside a larger group that is working against the interests of the larger group. The Clowns in America is clearly working against the interests of the United States and is instead working within the interests of only them. President Trump is doing this in the same way that President John F. Kennedy attempted to before him, stating that he was planning to tear the agency into a million pieces. The only problem is, the agency stopped him before he got the chance. Although it seems that we are very close to achieving our goal, we must continue to pray for President Trump's safety and well-being, because you can bet, before this is over, they're going to try to stop him as well. Alright guys, that's all I've got for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, one more thing. It's Red Pill. I just want to say thank you once again to everybody that has helped to support the channel. If you'd like to get involved, you can go ahead and check the show notes in the pinned comment and the description. There's always good information in there. I've got a couple of backup channels. I ask that you go ahead and subscribe to them, because if anything does happen here, I will start publishing there. And if you want things like merchandise or anything else, there is a bunch of information that you can find right below this video. All right guys, thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.